So now it's block number 3, and in this block we are going to talk about method of steepest ascent or descent. So it means that we are going to talk about how to take most important factors and reach almost the area where you have the optimal values for these factors, okay? But in order to explain you the method, I need to, first of all, to refresh your knowledge about correlation, regression, multiple linear regression. And in this learning sequence, I will start with a simple thing. It's a simple linear regression and related stuff like covariance and correlation. And then in the next learning sequence, we will discuss the multiple linear regression. Okay. So that's the plan. And again, I assume that you remember this from statistics, so I will just refresh your knowledge briefly. Then let's start with covariance. Okay. So what we are talking about here, first of all, we are talking about relationship between two variables, at least in this lecture. So we have two variables, let's say x1 and x2, or you can think about x and y. And we would like to know, is there any relationship between these two variables, x and y, and how to assess the relationship, okay? How good the relationship is. Graphically, you can look at the relationship by making a scatter plot where you have two axes. So you have x1 and x2. These are your variables, or x and y. And then every measurement, every object, in this case, will be a point in this space, right? So, and then you can look at this cloud of points, and that's what is called a scatter plot, okay? And scatter plot gives you a lot of information about the relationship between two variables. Then, of course, it's more or less subjective information, but still. So let's look at some of the scatter plots I made for this people data that we used at the very beginning of this course, okay? For example, this first plot, this one, it's a plot where I have height and weight of people. So again, for example, in this case, x is height and y is weight. Then you can see that, do you have any relationship between height and weight? Apparently you do. The color shows the gender of the persons, and then the points show the distribution, the variation, okay? So you can see a very clear trend. So in this case, it's a bit maybe non-linear trend like this. Okay? So you can see a very clear trend. And actually, if you can make a line, you can also interpolate this trend quite well, right? So we have a quite clear relationship between height and weight. And what can we say about this relationship? We can see that if height goes up, the weight goes up as well. And then if height goes down, the weight goes down. Okay, so this is kind of relationship we have. Now the second plot, you have income and age. Again, x is income and y is age. Then you also can see that there is a relationship between income and age, right? So if income is high, age is high, or vice versa. If you have a person whose age is, for example, above 40, this person has a relatively high income and vice versa, okay? You can also see that the points are more spread around this line. So it means that the relationship is not that strong. The deviation, the variation of the points, for example, if you take one particular, let's say one particular x, this one, so it's income, then you can see the variation of age for a certain income, okay? And you can think about the same here. For example, if you take one particular age, then you can see the variation of income here, right? So the variation is quite big, so therefore the relationship is not as strong as, for example, for height and weight. The plot number 3 shows us a little bit another pattern. It also shows us a trend. This is the trend, right? So you can see a trend, but the trend is weaker. So it means that the points are even more spread, right? So if you, for example, if you take, for example, this value, right? So you can see that this is the variation of the value. So the variation is quite big, right? So there is a trend, but the trend is weaker, and you can see also the direction of the trend is different, right? So you can see that if person drinks more beer, this person drinks less wine. And if person drinks less beer, the person drinks more wine. So in this case, we have a negative relationship. So we will talk about covariance in a minute. So it's a negative covariance, okay? Then finally, if you look at the plot number 4, where you have y and age, you don't see any clear relationship between y and age. So it seems like they do not relate to each other, okay? So this is what the relationship is. And this is how to use scatter plot to check if you have any relationship, okay?